There's the port. Wherever in the world you may be, chances are your country has been under lockdown for a while due to this unfortunate pandemic we're having. Since going outside has become a matter of life and death, what better time is there than now to watch a bunch of old DVDs? That's how I've been staying sane in these bleak times, and now I'll try to channel that binging into productivity. I'm going to attempt doing a quick review of the first 9 films I've watched under quarantine, ranking them worst to favourite. And don't worry, because these are going to be completely spoiler-free. I'll try to keep these relatively brief, and there'll be a part 2 on its way if this one turns out well enough. Give me a follow on Letterboxd if you're interested in this sort of stuff. Let's make a start, shall we?
Whiz pop, whiz bang, feel the bombs go down.
Dear God. If you're a theatre kid, maybe cover your ears for this one. Now, I've not seen the Broadway musical this is based on, but going off the film alone, Jesus Christ, worst film I've seen in a long, long time. The songs, I don't say this lightly, were fucking atrocious, especially the ones between the guitarist and the stripper.
Sorry about your friends, would you light my candle?
Broadway or not, most musicals I'm familiar with have at least one song that slaps, regardless of my thoughts on the film. Les Mis, Little Shop of Horrors, Grease, La La Land, all got some fat tunes. The songs in Rent, besides sounding, well, shit, don't exactly leave much to the imagination.
How we gonna pay? How we gonna pay? Last year's rent.
There's basically no story in this film either. What you first think is going to be the plot just kind of fades halfway through, and so many scenes were just cringy and straight up stupid, like the stand-up sequence. Fuck me, what a pain to sit through. What I'll give it credit for is, it did have some nice looking cinematography at times, like during the opening shot and the Maureen Tango, but that's all the positivity I can muster up for this one. While watching this film at 2 AM, I only made one note that read Mao Zedong movie. I think I was going to make a joke about Maoist landlord purges, how that would have made a better Rent musical. What? Anyway, 2 out of 10. Speaking of the number 2... Early stages of the lockdown had me thinking about the great outdoors. I had a moment when I thought about mountains and realised, damn, they really are tall. This quick peeking fascination got me in the mood to watch K2. This film was alright. The evening I spent watching this very 80s adventure was admittedly quite comfy. The film itself isn't great though. Right, quick exercise. In your head, right now, think of a simple mountain climbing story. Quick! Alright, done? You've basically just seen the film. There's not much to take away from its story, and there isn't much to ever rewatch it for. I will say though, this movie had a surprisingly nice opening, and I quite like the sense of height and danger in some scenes. A lot of it suffers from being overly melodramatic and cheesy though. This one gets a 6 out of 10.
Whiz pop, whiz bang, take it nice and slow.
I used to hate the Doors, but after they grew on me, I got in a real mood for this movie about them. Here's the issue though with band biopic films. You've seen one, you've basically seen them all. I must say though, this one was quite good given the format. Val Kilmer as Jim Morrison was just spot on, a near perfect casting I think. Much of this film is shot relatively nicely. I remember being hooked straight away by the glowing red opening scene. This film trails off a bit and gets a bit less entertaining as it goes, but it does do what it says on the tin. It does tell the story of the Doors. Certainly miles better than Bohemian f***ing Rhapsody, I'll tell you that much. I'd give this like a light 7 out of 10. Shallow Grave tells a pretty simple story that works quite well at times, less so at others. There's scenes in this film that I think do a great job of instilling raw fear into you, and there's just a looming sense of danger present throughout. There's points when the dark story begins to feel rather dull and a bit unrealistic, and that lets the movie down a bit. All things said, I do love Danny Boyle's grimy filmmaking style, and the cast was great. Ewan McGregor, Kerry Fox, ducked it. Also, it's nice and short, which is a bonus. Another 7 out of 10. I'll try not to let my unpleasant viewing experience taint my thoughts on this movie. Get a load of this. The DVD producers somehow couldn't fit a 90-minute film on a single disc, so they had to burn it onto 2 separate 45-minute DVDs. My external DVD player was having none of it, so the discs took about 15 minutes each to start working, and once they did, the film played in such god-awful quality, I think there's more freckles on my right arm than there's pixels in this recording. To top it all off, once I finished my legally purchased 144p DVD, I Google searched the film, and find the whole thing free on YouTube in high definition. Anyway, this film, told from the perspective of a mentally ill man, despite not being as consistently good as I'd hoped, sure as hell had some golden moments. Though greatly exaggerated, with the many frustrations this character faces, I think every one of us can relate to at least one. For me, it's his inability to relax or get on with anything without it feeling like the whole world becomes one huge distraction. It's so hilariously accurate. This film, though, is extremely Polish. Like, genuinely. The characters, language, and stereotypes used are so specific to this country, I don't think anyone that didn't grow up in Poland would ever fully get it. I just wish it was good, not mediocre with a few great scenes. This one gets a 7 from me as well.
It started with a sip.
Out of my mild pre-lockdown Lynch binge, I think this was my least favourite of the David Mann's films I've seen. That said though, it was still pretty damn good. What makes this film interesting is it's kind of its own breed of ridiculous, but in some weird way it works. It's a really violent and edgy story, but it's just got these deliberately forced Wizard of Oz references scattered throughout. Also, Nicolas Cage delivers some of the corniest dialogue in such a stone-cold, serious manner, and I think that makes him perfect for this part. I found myself laughing multiple times at stupid lines like, "I never had parental guidance."
I didn't have much parental guidance.
This is definitely an interesting movie. Half of it is really dark and uncomfortable, but it's also got a rather silly side, which can be quite funny due to its intentional absurdity. This one is like a solid 7 or maybe an 8.
The tingly tipple that tickles your tongue.
Not really much to say about this one, just an effective story about some 30s grifters. This film does something pretty clever, but I'd be spoiling it by saying what it is, so I just recommend you watch it and see for yourself. Some of it is a bit slow, but I'd say it's all worth it at the end. 8 out of 10.
The moment of truth is your time at the root.
If you know nothing about this film, do yourself a favour and keep it that way. Don't read the plot synopsis, just find a way to watch it, find yourself a free 89 minutes on a dark, quiet evening, and just let it play. It's definitely not for everyone, but I for one was mesmerised. Lately, I've had a bit of a thing for unexplainable, surreal horror videos on YouTube, like Dining Room, or I Feel Fantastic, you know the ones. And Eraserhead was basically just this in feature-length film form. I found this film to be unique and unsettling, and I'll leave it at that. Only challenge is to re-watch it now and decipher what the hell is going on in it. This one's like a 9.5 out of 10, to me, at least.
But the visually big make you wobbly eyed.
How had I never heard of this film before? I think this is the most pleasantly surprised a movie has ever made me, and I can't really think of much to fault it on. The premise is genuinely funny. A son has to hide the fact that the Berlin Wall has fallen from a sick East German mother. This film tells a story about major political change, but from a very human angle, and it does so quite beautifully. I found Goodbye Lenin to be full of touching, memorable moments, and once you get past the hurdle of finding a subtitled version, I was lucky enough to have a DVD laying around, it's really accessible and easy to enjoy. I like this kind of filmmaking a lot, and I think this is a really underrated movie. Worth a watch. Also, the main character, played by Daniel, looks so much like my friend Dan that it kept distracting me while I was watching the film. This film, you know what? Perhaps I'd give it a 10. It might be a 10 to me. And that concludes today's quarantine reviews. I've never really tried anything like this before. The only review I ever uploaded, I was promptly asked to take down. But you know, I need to keep myself busy, so I'll likely make a part 2 soon. Do like and subscribe. I sometimes make short films, sometimes reviews, sometimes nothing. Oh yeah, and follow me on Letterboxd. Goodbye.